As a foreign minister of an SCO member state, Mr. Bhutto Zardari was treated accordingly. As a promoter, justifier, and I'm sorry to say spokesperson of a terrorism industry, which is the mainstay of Pakistan, his positions were called out and they were countered, including at the SCO meeting itself.
In a country which has been pounded by terrorism from the moment of its birth, which is us. When other people say, oh, that's not important, what is important is you shouldn't shut down internet under any circumstances. That's actually, there is both a political and a semi-cultural judgment out there. So how do you actually put your case? How do you convince other people? How do you get other countries to follow you? So, again, when my example I gave, the independence of mind during this whole Ukraine and the kind of pressures we came under, a lot of countries do not have the ability to say, yes, I will stand up and do what is right for my people. So, to me, there's both this hardware, software problem that faces us.
So let me come to the specifics. On the China-Pakistan economic corridor, this so-called corridor, I think it was made very clear, not once but twice in the SCO meeting, that connectivity is good for progress, but connectivity cannot violate the territorial integrity and sovereignty of states. So this has been our long-standing position. Nobody should have any doubt about it. And I assure you, those who are in the room today had no doubt about it. I made sure of that.
We invited the Pakistani foreign minister because there was an SCO foreign ministers meeting, and when it comes to multilateral meetings, you invite people to discuss that subject. Okay? So, he was invited in his capacity as a representative of Pakistan to put across his views on matters pertaining to the SCO. We could differ, he may have his own viewpoint, I may have my own viewpoint. There's an SCO meeting room in which we would exchange, differ. That's one thing. But if you look at what were his public utterances outside in the press conference and other interviews, he's not spoken about the SCO at all. He's spoken about everything else pertaining to India. He's spoken about our politics, he's spoken, his past value judgments, from Kashmir to G20 to BBC documentary. As I said, other than SCO, he's spoken about everything else. So, now, what do I do as a host? See, if I have a guest who's a good guest, I'm a good host.
Regarding आपका दूसरा जो था वो G20 के बारे में था. Now, I don't think there is a G20 issue to debate with anybody. Certainly not with a country which is nothing to do with the G20. Jammu and Kashmir was, is, will always be a part of India. And the G20 meetings are held in all the Indian states and union territories, so it is completely natural that it is held there.
See, I would have offered to take classes on China from Rahul Gandhi. But I discovered he was taking classes on China from the Chinese ambassador. So I asked myself, I may as well go to the original source and talk to them. Look, there is a lot, unfortunately, foreign policy has become also an arena where in some ways, I'm not innocent, okay? I'm not taking a view that there should not be politics. Today I'm in politics, I know everything in politics is political. I accept that. But I think on certain issues, we have a collective responsibility to at least behave in a way in which we do not weaken our collective position abroad. Okay. To do what we have seen in the last 3 years on China, because often very misleading narratives are put. There are misrepresentations. We had, for example, there was a big to-do about a bridge which the Chinese were building on Pangong Tso Lake, okay, in Ladakh. Now the reality, it was made out as though, see, you lost territory and they're building a bridge. No, the reality was that particular area, first the Chinese came in 1959 and then they occupied it in 1962. But that's not the way it was put across. This happened in case of some of the so-called model villages as well, that they were built on areas which we lost in 62 or before 62. Now, I don't believe, you will very rarely hear me say, in 1962 that shouldn't have happened, or you are wrong, or you are responsible. I mean, what has happened has happened. It's our collective, I would say, failure or responsibility. I do not attribute necessarily a political coloring to it. What I would like to see is actually a serious China conversation. I'm prepared to accept that there are differences of viewpoints on that. But if you reduce it to a kind of slanging match, well, I mean, what can I say after that?
जो आपका जो दूसरा सवाल जो था कि from what I understood that India and Pakistan should sit together. Victims of terrorism do not sit together with perpetrators of terrorism to discuss terrorism. Victims of terrorism defend themselves, counter acts of terrorism, they call it out, they delegitimize it, and that is exactly what is happening. So to come here and preach these hypocritical words as though we are on the same boat, I mean, they are committing acts of terrorism. And, I don't want to jump the gun on what happened today, but I think we're all feeling equally outraged. So I think, I mean, let's be very, very clear on this. On this matter, the terrorism matter, I mean, I would say Pakistan's credibility is depleting even faster than its forex reserves. So let's be clear what this is about. On your question, is this a breakthrough? Look, he came here as a foreign minister of an SCO member state. That is part of multilateral diplomacy. Please do not see it as anything more than that. It was not meant as anything more than that. It was not treated as anything more than that. And I think nothing that from what he said or what I heard he said deserves for this to be treated more than that.
Look, I'm pushing hard for it because unless something miraculously changes in Pakistan, which I don't expect, I'll have to find a way around that to develop access to Central Asia and beyond. That is why a port in Iran is very important for us. Today there are ports. There is this port called Bandar Abbas in Iran, but it's a very congested port. We would like to have a port much closer to India, that is in eastern Iran, which, if we can work it out with the Iranians, can become a way by which goods can come from India to Central Asia and vice versa. It's been difficult in part because Iran also has come under sanctions. So, many of their companies, are problematic to deal with financially. But we have made steady progress. This time at the meeting, in fact, a lot of the Central Asians, there was, I don't want to mislead you, there was some serious business done in SCO meeting as well. It wasn't just what happened after the meeting. So they asked, a lot of them were very keen, saying, let's develop it. We are willing to chip in. People were interested in connecting their railway lines to what was coming out of that. So if I were to, say, give you a, 5-year, 10-year prediction, I'm sure this will be a very important connectivity sort of route. Not just to Central Asia, possibly even to Russia. Because we have a route called International North-South Transport Corridor, where we go through Iran, link up with, Azerbaijan, go northwards up there. And how to build your connectivity is today a very important part of diplomacy and international relations and international economics. You're asking the wrong minister when you say, how long will we do this? Because it is the ministers of Pakistan who will tell you how long Pakistan intends to practice terrorism. So, look, at the end of the day, the world is not stupid, the world is not forgetful, and the world does, increasingly call out countries and organizations and people who indulge in terrorism. And by taking that debate elsewhere, you're not going to hide it. You're not going to confuse anybody anymore. People have figured it out. So my advice is, please clean up your act. Please try to be a good neighbor. Please try and contribute to what the rest of the world is trying to do today, which is economic growth, progress, development. So I hope through your channel that message goes through. I actually, on certain matters, have a thick skin. On certain matters, have a thin skin. When people say, you can say like personal stuff, I tend to have, I'm trying to develop a thick skin, okay? It's part of my political incarnation. So I don't respond to some tweets, as you notice. But on certain matters, I don't think it's a thin skin issue. I mean, I ask you a question because I think this, the Shashi Tharoor issue came out of that. I mean, when I was in Bangalore that day. I landed in Delhi. Like everybody, immediately switch on your phone the moment the plane touches down. And I saw that picture of that guy climbing up the flagpole and pulling down our national flag. Honestly, tell me, if you saw it, didn't your blood boil? Do you want me to have a thick skin on that? So I think there are issues. I mean, if somebody sort of, I would say, insults your country or dishonors your what you hold dear or attacks, your core positions, absolutely, I have a thin skin.